Thank you for joining us. My name is Jim Richardson, the founder and CEO and CTO of Finchloom. I've also got on the call with me today Carrie New, who's our Azure Senior Architect.
Hi, everyone.
Today is about OpenAI in Azure that gives you the chance to use ChatGPT in your own environment with your own enterprise data. And this is an exciting partnership that Microsoft formed with OpenAI to develop the ChatGPT model. And they both use it. OpenAI has a public version of it that people can subscribe to and use. And Microsoft has their own copy of that chat OpenAI model in Azure. So if you as an organization want to start using it in a private setting where your data doesn't go outside of your Azure organization, then this is the solution for you. With Azure OpenAI Service, like I was saying, it's deployed in your Azure subscription. You put all of your security around it, or we can help you do that, and we tie it to your data and your applications. And we utilize this pre-trained AI model to unlock new scenarios with your data. So finally, we can do things like reasoning with your data, or completing things with your data, or even analyzing it for certain words or keynotes or sentiment, and reporting back on that. We can customize the AI model by applying fine tuning on top of it. And that fine tuning data remains yours. It doesn't get shared with Microsoft. And there's some built-in responsible AI to detect and mitigate harmful use, and enterprise-grade security and role-based access control. So this is some of the new use cases that we've been seeing customers ask about. And a lot of these things are things that we can start building on today, like content generation, getting the bot to create documents for you based on a sample document. Or for those of you who have code development, you want to generate your own PowerShell scripts or your own SQL queries, the AI can help you do that. Semantic search is a way to import a lot of your data into a learning search engine that doesn't just look for keywords when you search, it looks for correlations and meaning between the words and tries to form a semantic index to help it reason with that data better. And then summarization. This is one of my favorites, where you give a document to the Azure AI and it returns back to you a summary of key points or key things that you're looking for in that document. So I call this sort of the enterprise data getting a new front end, where today in Office 365, Microsoft 365, you might have all of your data front-ended by SharePoint or Teams, or if you still have an on-prem traditional file server, you might have drive mappings to the file server. But for the last 20 years, we've been creating and collecting data in our work. And so now we have somewhere to put that data and put it back to use again. So all those old documented processes and procedures can go into this chatbot model, and you can have an AI concierge that guides you through your process steps. So imagine an employee going, what do I do next on my day one? And it tells you, well, the next thing of your onboarding is this step. Or maybe you've collected knowledge bases over the years, and now you want to tap into that knowledge base, give all the documents to the AI, and then work with the AI to find things in your knowledge base. Maybe customer historical data, and you can look up things like, when did this customer first become a customer? And engage with the chat to give you more reasoning with your customer data. Or bring in your contracts or your company records, and then you can start reasoning with that data. With our package solution to deploy OpenAI in Azure for you, we're going to first deploy a chatbot. And with a chatbot, you get your very own copy of the OpenAI model. You can get started quickly and get ahead of the curve. You can start to explore how OpenAI is cost, how the costs measure up, and what you can expect to spend in a 1-month period using OpenAI. And then this is the real key, is it's fully customizable. This is OpenAI model is just a brain, but it needs to be connected to other components for it to really work well. So it's got full API access and you can connect it to other services like a front end application or an orchestrator or even back end APIs to extend the brain, the OpenAI service, to other parts of your network or even out to the internet. And it's important to note, and you can read this at your leisure, but everything you input or output from your Azure OpenAI is your data, and it's not transferred outside of Azure to other customers or to OpenAI or to train on the model, the base model. And basically, everything is your data and kept that way. And then some business use cases, people are starting to think of, how can I use this in my business? So we've put together this package solution to get it in front of you so you can start playing with it and start to identify use cases in your business. Maybe it's a summarization use case so that you don't have to read through hours and hours of documents. Maybe it's conversational where you provide concierge or customer service bots. Or maybe you want to mine knowledge from your organization and look for trends or sentiment analysis. Or like I said, get an AI to help you to generate code. So these are all great use cases that we've put together. And our Azure cloud engineer architect, Carrie New, is here with me today. And he's going to take away the show and show you a little demo about how we would use OpenAI.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jim. And yeah, definitely some good comments about kind of code generation. I use that a lot, and I don't know all the scripting, and it's something that you can do fast, and it generates things on demand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you the Azure AI Studio chat playground. And really what the chat playground is a way for us to be able to use no code. So it's something where you can go in and kind of just play around with your data before you start integrating chatbots and you start creating like an application or integrating it in. What you can do is look at your data, see what you have, see what's the possibilities, right? So it allows you kind of to test out your data. And then what's really cool is it actually will provide you, if you're doing some of the searches and stuff, it will provide you the code. It could be in C#, it can be JSON, it can be actually in Python. So it's some really helpful things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some options of kind of just standard chat. And then we're going to start bringing in some, like Jim said, some completions or showing composing, right? So we can summarize a document, we can create PowerShell scripts or JSON scripts and stuff. So I'm going to go through a couple sessions where we can show you how outs work. So right off the bat, I'm just going to show you it's a simple chat. So just again, we've deployed the GPT into our Azure environment. So now we're just going to ask GPT some questions. So we haven't brought in any of our data. So the first thing that we're going to do is just kind of say, and obviously because we're doing conversation, so you can actually just say hello. It will respond back and hello, how can I assist you, right? So a little bit more personal touch, and then say, okay, you know what? I want to take a trip to New York.
And this is the same OpenAI model you could use on the internet if you paid their
Correct.
fee, but it's private. So anything you're typing in here never goes to OpenAI, doesn't go to the internet.
Yeah, so I just asked, like I said, I want to take a trip to New York. Where can I stay? So it's going to give me back some of the hotels, Airbnb, hostels, etc. But what's nice is it's called contextual. I don't have to, like in normal searches, if you're doing it where you have to put out the whole. I want to go to a nice restaurant, French restaurant, right? So I'm going to say, are there any restaurants? Perfect. Le Bernardin, La Grenouille, some great restaurants to go to. So then also, because it gives you some of the options, but what's great is, can you recommend one?
And this is all based on its pre-trained data, right? This is not looking it up on the internet.
Yep, and it recommends La Grenouille, which I've been there. It's an excellent French restaurant, and it's something. So it's something that's really cool. Like I said, it's like having a normal conversation. You don't have to type it all out again. It remembers what context you're in, and you can continue with kind of that conversation. Okay, so that's kind of just the standard chat, asking questions and stuff like that. So the next thing I'm going to do is we have a new policy now that we're putting in our hours daily and it has to be done. And I have to send an email to everybody saying, you know what, please put in your hours nightly. This is necessary because et cetera, et cetera. But I also wanted to have it with kind of a little bit more enthusiasm in it. And sometimes I'm not the greatest at putting together an email. It takes a lot of time and effort. So instead, I'm going to copy and paste it in. And all I'm saying here is kind of rewrite the email to all Finchloom employees. From this day forward, you must input your hours. And it's pretty standard, but pretty straightforward. And I just wanted to I said here, we write the following in an enthusiastic tone. So it will actually go back. And I'm just going to
you're going to have it ghostwrite for you.
Exactly. Hello, amazing Finchloom employees. I have some exciting news to share. So it's something that, and actually, I do use this when I'm compiling an email, not when you're talking to your person, but if you have to send something to a customer or to employees and stuff like that, and you want to make sure, and you can do it as enthusiastic or professional or casual, this gives you actually, it's a pretty good email, right? Like it's something that you may have to tweak it a little bit, but it's very helpful. And some people who are not good at composing kind of a corporate email or something to a customer, you want to make sure that you do it correctly. This is a fantastic tool for doing this. Okay, and then here, perfect example too. So I just did that, but also we have people in the company that speak Spanish. So can you translate this email into Spanish for me?
Nice.
And I speak French, but I don't speak Spanish. And you're going to see how it actually does a translation for me in Spanish. So it's something where quickly, before you had to go to the translate in Google, and sometimes it wasn't great the way it did the translation. You have to do all the different words. This will do it for you, right? So it's just it looks like a great email. So I say very helpful for translation, helpful for composing emails from something that you already have. I didn't have to give it stuff. I could just give it an example, say, I need to send an email to people talking about vacation or when they can take it, and it will compose it for you. So it's something that's very helpful on day-to-day life, right? Okay. And then like what Jim talked about before is that you want to summarize. You have a document or you have something that somebody sent you, a large one, and you have to go quickly, or you need to kind of paraphrase it or something. Don't want to say dumb it down, but in layman's terms, you want to kind of summarize it and send to people, say, so that everybody can understand. So what I've done is I got a little paragraph here that I've grabbed and said, you know what, instead of, I said, can you summarize this about Jupiter, right? Summarize the following provided for a second grade student. So you can actually put it to a certain level. So you can say layman's term or second grade or a university student and just talk about Jupiter as the fifth planet from the sun, and goes into some of the details. And what it will do, it will actually simplify that paragraph for you. And you'll see Jupiter this is for grade 2, right? So Jupiter is a very big planet, has fifth from the sun. It's really, really big. So as you can see, it's changed some of the adjectives and the way it's explaining things. So it's very helpful for taking documents or summaries and rephrasing them for the appropriate audience, right? So perfectly in our, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, no, I was going to cut in and just ask, and like you were saying with context before, you can actually go back on this and say, no, make it shorter, or no, make it sound more like William Shakespeare, and it'll continue to do it.
Form, right? Or in point form, and like I said, in business for us, when we do a lot of technology, can you explain Azure Virtual Desktop in layman's terms, right? Stuff like that, where it actually will helpful. So when you send it to somebody or you're creating a presentation, it gives you that detail. Okay, and then Jim talked about it earlier and I use this quite often in my job, is to create kind of scripts or tools. So for example, I need to create a PowerShell script and I don't remember. I can go back and search the documentation, Microsoft documentation, and look for it. But I'm just saying, like, write a PowerShell script to list devices in Azure AD. That's something that I do quite often, and I never remember, right? So I always just, you can actually just talk to the ChatGPT, and it will actually, not only does it write the script for you, it gives you some details, and it's very, very
It
helpful.
explains it.
Definitely, exactly, right? And you can do this for Python, you can do it, and it's very helpful. A lot of times it will link you to the documentation itself and stuff, so that's very helpful for, and I know a lot of people that actually use this feature, even in the public ChatGPT, so that they can actually get some of that information. Okay, so another thing that we can do is actually, and it's in the playground itself, and we'll clear that chat. And this is for completions, right? So we can actually do this the same in the chats, but what this allows you to do is just, again, give you more examples. Like, for example, these are showing things just to give you an idea of what you can do, what questions you can ask, how can you do kind of that prompting, right? So to say, how should you ask questions? For example, a perfect one is summarize key points from a financial report, right? So you can give it a financial report, or you can point it to a website or copy a website and then say, you know what, just summarize key points, and then you can generate. So again, this is just a demonstration. This is the playground that so allows you to do this, right?
And
And then
after seeing kind of the examples of what it can do with a company, we can work up a use case. And maybe you have a system where you get annual financial reports all the time, and we can create an application that connects it to the AI so that you can easily do this in an application. Right
right.
here is just an example of how it works to give you an idea of what you can do with it.
But what else you can do is, like we talked about, is hey, there's your Python code for this type of request, right? So it tells you where it is. And so it gives you an idea. You definitely got to tweak it, but it's just something that you can do. So it gives you the options so that when you are building the solution, or integrating it into a web app, or certain kind of a C# app, it will give you the JSON.
That's great. Anything you
Yes,
create in the playground, you can export as code.
exactly. And that's very helpful. So especially if you're just trying to integrate, do certain things. So again, the completions playground, which you can play around with, is just helps you to kind of get an idea. And like we talked about, natural language to Python or SQL, these are just some of the things that you can do. Generate a quiz, and this is kind of cool. So it kind of just goes into here, and it will. And then actually it just, you can ask how many questions. So it should contain at least 5 questions, and it will generate that for you. So it's kind of cool. And if you need to put some stuff together and test some people, it's very helpful. So that is kind of the chat, the completion. So now the next phase we're going to talk about is now adding your data, right? So again, this is the playground, but normally the data would be already added in the background, and you'd be linking it into your data sources, your SQL database and stuff. But for the demo, what we're going to do is we're going to import a document. So the first document we're going to import is the Microsoft Annual 2020 report. And so what we're doing is we're going to upload it to our own storage account. So there's a location in Azure that is our storage account, and we're going to link it to a cognitive search, which does the indexing. And we're going to take a look at this report, and we're going to ask for summary, and we're going to do a couple of things. So we're going to say MS report. Knowledge, I'm just going to say it's going to cost. And we're going to go and look for that file. And docs, Word docs, PDFs, there's a lot of things that are supported as the thing. And it is possible for other sources, but there's be some massaging and stuff like that. So, but right now we're just going to do a couple simple, this one's going to be a docx, and then we're going to do some PDFs for the next demo. So this is just one document. And right now we're going to stick to a keyword search. And we'll save and close. And generally, one document, it just depends, but generally it's about a minute to minute and a half. And what it's doing, and like Jim talked about earlier, is learning the document, right? So it's figuring out what the message is, creating indexes for you so that when you search, it can figure out what are the keywords so that it speeds up when you start searching and asking. So that's what happens. So generally, one document, it's not a very big document, usually it's about a minute, minute and a half, and then it depends on how many documents you have. So there is a bit of time involved. Like it says about 1 minute. And then once you've uploaded that document, you can start asking questions about that. And that's what I'm going to do.
What is
And
that
again,
checkbox?
I was
The
just going to
limit
bring that up.
responses.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's saying, you know what? Don't look at the chat. Look at your data only for doing that, right? So it's not going to look at ChatGPT. It's not going to look outside of the data that you've actually imported. So this for sure knows this is your corporate data. This is what you're talking to.
So if you ask it that same French restaurant in New York question, when that box is checked, you won't get an answer, huh?
It will have no clue. Exactly.
Okay. It only knows the document that you're uploading.
Correct. And again, because we're limiting it to this one document, but yes, but in general.
And then when would you uncheck that if you wanted to use the OpenAI's trained data against the document? to do comparisons?
Exactly. Like saying if you're looking at some of the data that you're using and saying, for example, like there's issues happening and stuff like that, and you want to kind of find out, okay, here's the issues we're having, but also is there anything out there for resolution, right? Or your knowledge base, is your knowledge base correct, right? And that's where you would open it up, where you have access to your knowledge base, but then you're also having access to that ChatGPT data. And like you said, Jim, is validating it against your own knowledge base. And then you can see whether your knowledge base is correct. Okay. So it's been done. So now it's been uploaded. It creates an index, and you can see that that index is there. So now we're just going to ask some questions. So the first question, and like we talked about, is one of the big ones, is summarize it, right? So we're just going to ask, can you summarize this report for me? And it's like usually about 5 seconds, it'll come back with. And the annual report, its commitments to empowering every person, every organization. So it's believe it or not, it's a very large document, and it gives you a pretty good summary on what's in that document. So, and then from there, we can kind of just ask some questions, and because I obviously know the document and checked it, is the one question you could ask is, because we're still in the same context, is which companies did Microsoft invest in, right?
And then how much did they invest?
Exactly. We'll ask that. So you can see that it's invested in Bethesda software in January, announced that Blizzard. Maybe it's in the report. I don't remember, but it'll tell you if it doesn't. So it doesn't have any information. So that's not in the report, right? Which is cool because it's not always there. And then we could say, because obviously in every annual report, there's usually what is their goal for next year, or what's their goal for the future, right? Just give that a couple seconds, and you can see, and it just tells you Microsoft's goal for the future is to lead the industry in several distinct areas. So it gives you a pretty good write-up. And again, this is probably a 100-page report that you can get kind of the guts of it pretty quickly, and you can summarize it, and you can get kind of the guts of the report without having to read all 100 pages, etc. Okay, so for the next demo, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, and this is going to be kind of a corporate thing, right? Like what Jim talked about is for HR, for benefits, for corporate processes and policies and stuff. So I'm going to bring in a couple, and these are sample data. So I'm just going to remove, let me clear the chat, because obviously we want to have a new chat, and we're going to remove that data source. And obviously this is test, so we can only do one data source at a time, but in a normal environment, you're going to have multiple data sources in your environment. Wanting to upload again, we can go to the same storage account.
And what are you going to upload this time?
I said I'm going to upload corporate data, right? So we talk about is the employee handbook, some benefit packages, standard and stuff. So these are 3 PDFs, so a little bit different than Word doc, but PDFs. And you can see they're not huge, but they're a good size. And we'll upload again. This is uploading to your storage account in Azure. It's only available to yourselves. Just do that. And save and close. And again, like the first one, I probably was about 40 seconds. I found this one's usually 3 documents the size. You're looking at about 2 minutes. It just all depends on the indexing and the amount of information in that. So we'll give that about 1.5 minutes. And again, like I said, is anything we do here, you can view the code. The only thing is I can't change screens while this is happening. You can't change the screen or move because it will stop the adding of the data. But once we get these in place, we can do a couple searches. And
now,
over here on the, sorry, Jim.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was going to say, while we're waiting, we can talk about how to deploy this chat into a web app. You don't have to actually show it or do it, but at the top right is the deploy to button. And once you have your chat bot set up the way you want it, you can put it in production as a website and give all of your users access to a web page where they have to sign in, and then they can engage with the chat bot and whatever data you've connected. Or you can add it to a Power Virtual Agent and have the chatbot show up in Teams. So if you're a heavy user of Teams and you chat with one another, why not add a chat bot that you can give users to chat with your data?
And a great thing you just said, Jim, about the web app is that it uses your existing Azure AD authentication, multi-factor authentication, so it's all secured with the existing platform that you're already using. And I think that's important too, because again, this is a web app. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I was going to say you can also protect it from being open on the internet too.
Correct.
Look at that.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to say, you know what services are covered? Because a lot of times people join and they don't really read the documentation you get and stuff. So you're like, okay, what services are covered? I need to go to the eye doctor, right? So what services are covered under my health plan?
Oh no.
Oh no, you're kidding. Let's try it again. Sometimes if the index doesn't finish 100%. There we go.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, so sometimes I guess I jumped the gun a little bit. The index
Yeah.
probably was not finished altogether, but again, you saw in a couple more seconds. So, and then it comes back and says, hey, I found some information, because we've asked something that's very generic, so it's not really detailed. It was just kind of, what are my services? It kind of goes into kind of newborn care, and it also, what's kind of cool, it gives you the references in the documents, and you can click on those documents to go to those documents, which is kind of cool. But then
Actually,
again,
it just shows the reference in the screen. You don't actually open the document.
oh, you can. Yep. Gives you all that information. So
yeah, that's what I mean. It shows the citation. It doesn't open the PDF in a separate window.
No, sorry. No, it doesn't do that. It gives you
Right.
where that information is. Yeah, my apologies. I
Right.
meant that. Yeah. Okay, so then the second time, so we've just asked about that, but I didn't really see, like, I want to go and get my eyes checked, but I couldn't find out if it does cover my annual eye exam. So let's just ask for it, right? Routine are considered preventive care and are exempt from prior auths. However, it's important to note that list of the services didn't included. Okay. Well, it didn't give us what I want, so if we just try it again, it should give us kind of what's included.
Oh, yeah, it says they're exempt from prior authorization.
Right, so that means you are. I didn't look.
Yeah, it's included.
Yeah, perfect. And then again, the other question that you're probably going to ask is what services aren't included, right? So that's always important too. So if you're looking to get something done and you want to make sure that you're covered, and you didn't see it totally in the what is included, you can go and check, see what's not included.
And I also want to point out that this is an out of the box configuration. So as we get involved with a customer and start to play with this, there are ways to fine tune the chatbot to make it more relevant.
Correct.
And you do that both through the fine tuning. You can also train additional data to the bot, and you can teach your users the proper way to prompt. And that's what you put into the query window will determine the outcome of what you get back. So users, if you just put a simple query, sometimes you'll just get a simple answer. But if you can add more context and detail to your query, then the bot gives you a much better answer.
Right. And then the other thing, so that's the first one. So the second one is I just got a new computer and I'm working now. I started my new job. Some of the questions that is there a company policy on data security, right? So now we have kind of the employee handbook. So we're just going to check. Yes, Contoso is committed to protecting the security and has implemented physical, technical, and administrative measures to combat. Okay, so it's like, oh, okay, so like, does the company provide training? Because I have no idea on how to do that, right? So does the company provide training? And I don't have to say about kind of data security and stuff like that because it's still in the same context. Yes, all employees must complete data security training at the start of their employment and thereafter. And then, even though it says it, we can kind of just ask again. It says must complete. I say, because I don't feel like going. Is it mandatory? Yes, data
Yes,
security is mandatory. So
that's
as you can
great.
see, it's still in there, and it's a conversation because you've read a little bit, and it says must complete, but does that really mean it's mandatory? And then I just said, is it mandatory? Yes, the data security is mandatory. So it's, again, a very good way of looking into company procedures and policies and kind of asking it questions using natural language, natural conversation, and it comes back and it gives you kind of the information you're looking for.
Wow, that was great. Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
So as you could see from the demo, we put you into the chat playground and we try to envision what's possible with the tool. You can play around with it and get it to do some things that you normally do in your work and see if it can complete some of those for you. And then if this turns out to be a great proof of concept, we can move into the use case scenarios where we envision with you in your business some of the things that you do in the normal course of business and imagine how the AI could augment or replace some of those manual processes for you. And then from there, it gets into a development period where we need to connect the front end, we need to connect different back ends, and we need to fine tune your data. So, what we're offering right now as a package solution is the proof of concept. So, we work with you over 3 months to implement the OpenAI ChatGPT in your Azure environment. We work with you to determine what the cost will be. We do a basic chatbot deployment and configure it for you. And it would be exactly the same as what Carrie showed you. The Azure AI Studio, the OpenAI Studio, and the basic chat playground with the completion playground. We can also deploy the web interface or do the Teams chatbot integration that I showed you. And we can configure it to log all of the prompts and all of the outputs. So if you have a compliance need to keep monitoring what the AI is telling employees, that can all be logged centrally so you can review it. And then we can train your IT team on terminology and maintenance of the chatbot. Then we'll finally record an end user training that goes into prompt engineering, how to get the best out of the chatbot, and how to start using it to prove the concept that it will work for you in your environment. So this is a product that we've packaged. We're going to put it on the Microsoft Marketplace soon, but we're available to start proposing this to you as a customer. So if you're interested to learn more about getting started with OpenAI and your own very own ChatGPT model with your enterprise data, you could reach out to us today and we'll get Carrie on the phone with you and we'll start imagining what it would look like for your environment. So that concludes our deep dive today on Azure OpenAI ChatGPT. Wanted to thank you for watching and thank you for considering Finchloom for your Microsoft OpenAI needs.